meeting's order.
Yeah, we'll do a roll call. We're going to start with Eddie, I guess. Eddie?
Eddie Hernandez, Brownsville Chamber of Commerce, Brownsville PUB.
Good morning, Pete Alvarez, TxDOT.
John Wood with Brownsville Navigation District.
Drew Brown, Brownsville ISD.
Trey Mendez, City of Brownsville.
Manuel Alcocer, representing the Airport Advisory Board.
Eliseo Davila, Cameron County.
Javier Villarreal, Cameron County.
Good morning, Alfonso Vallejo, Brownsville MPO.
Good morning, Antonio Zubieta with the Brownsville MPO.
Yeah, Mark Lund, MPO Director.
Okay, the first item is discussion, consideration, and action on adoption of minutes for the MPO Policy Committee meeting held August 21st, 2019. Do you have any action, any motions on that?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Item 4, discussion, consideration, and action on adoption of MPO allocations for transportation alternative program improvements as follows. You want to just go ahead?
Yeah, no, we have them in the order of the rankings. The technical committee ranked these projects at our meeting in August. I didn't get them on the agenda in August. And so we have a resolution that goes with it. The Category 9 monies are for transportation alternative projects. In other words, non-highway improvements, things that help bicyclists and pedestrians. And the projects, we have International Boulevard, Safe Routes to School number 1, Safe Routes to School number 2, a South Brownsville project, and then the West Boulevard, which is a multimodal corridor. There's a committee between county and city. Eventually, we can rename that, since out of the 9 miles, you'll have 9 miles of trail and approximately 2 miles of road. So it's kind of a misnomer to have it as West Boulevard, but we'll leave that for the new MPO, and the county and city representatives of their meeting group are aware of that. We had, I think it was Bill Berg that brought that up as a public comment. So we haven't lost track of that. This resolution, these are projects within the first 10 years of our long-range plan. And so we have the resolution. We'll pass that on to TxDOT at the FAR district, and then they will set up advanced funding agreements with those entities. And I would say this, is there is some possibility that with the new MPO beyond the 10 years, that'll be a new competitive process. But in terms of the merger of the MPOs, they're pretty much respecting things that are within the 10-year window. So anyway, if there are any questions, I'll try to address them.
That is the resolution that's in our packet, right, Mark?
Right.
Okay. Did everybody have a chance to review that? Is there any questions on that?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Next item, item 5, discussion, consideration, and action on adoption of the MPO's 2020 to 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
Yeah, we discussed this last month, and we're pleased that Joel Garza from the Harlingen-San Benito MPO came to show, he's at our meeting to show support, more support. I described the long-range plan. It has like 200 moving parts. It's very difficult to meet all the funding constraints. It sounds like, oh, it shouldn't be any problem. Well, it is a lot of problem because we have to rank the projects, and it's very tedious, and so we put a lot of work into this. There's 2 things I want to bring up before we open it up for questions and comments. One is, when we make the motion to adopt, I want it to be subject to technical corrections. And what I mean by that is that we have data that we need to support all the decision-making. There's so many federal regulations, and there's so many things. You think of it as baseball. You hit the ball over the wall, but if you don't touch the base, it doesn't count as a run. So we've done all the work to hit the ball over the wall, but we have to have supporting documentation. There will be no change in the dollar figures. There will be no change in the projects. But the backup information that supports the plan, that'll come in the next week or 2. I'll give you an example. We know at the international crossings, you know, what our average traffic is, you know, not only for trucks or for other motor vehicles, but for pedestrians over here at the Gateway Bridge. So we show that as a supporting documentation. And so we have some work to do on an example like that. It doesn't really affect the plan. There is some information hot off the press. We have an unfunded project. We were in discussion back in January with Jesus or Jesse Leal at the Fire District about ITS changeable message signs. I think we have them now on the expressway. I think it's at FM 3248. He wants to install 6 more signs. And so we have not identified monies for this, but we want to list that in the program as an unfunded need. And then maybe we can secure money down the road. It is significant. If you think about it, the overpasses that are going over by the flea market, where we get up and over the railroad, at one time that was an unfunded need, and then it worked its way into getting funding. So that'll be added to the there's another loose end that we put to bed. You have before you the spreadsheet, and it, you know, shows $500 million of projects. We have an option between A and B. I was talking to Mr. Wood prior to the meeting, and because these are projects, these are overpasses on State Highway 48 over at the Port of Brownsville. There's, and we're talking about the time frame of between 2041 and 2045. Obviously, there's going to be time to make an adjustment, but we're showing in the plan on A, we're showing, I believe, the overpass at Amphils. And then the LNG location, which is much further east, that is unfunded. And then B is to fund the one at the liquefied natural gas facility next decade, and to leave the Amphils location overpass unfunded. So that's a minor choice before you. I would mention that I talked to Ariel Chavez, who does engineering for the port, this morning. We have a tiny correction on the overpass in the vicinity of Chemical Road. He said listed, the limits were a little more exact, listed as 4.7 miles east of Chemical Road. That's where they want the overpass. So obviously some of these things will be sorted out as we do a corridor study. The new Rio Grande Valley MPO has in its work program undertaking a corridor study for that portion of 48. So they will use federal monies to determine some of those issues, you know, more at a finer scale and more detail. And typically when MPOs do studies, they invite public comment. So those are the 2 things I wanted to mention. That the motion to adopt would be subject to technical correction, and the housekeeping of these other loose ends that we've got them tied down. We know what we want. If there are any questions, or if anybody from any citizens have any comments, now would be the time.
Yeah, is there anybody here who's going to comment on this item? Joel, do you have any presentation or anything related to this at all? No. Mr. Bernal, have you had a chance to review this as well on behalf of the city?
Yes, we've had meetings with CCRMA. I know we've had meetings with, we've been involved with, Mark's been involved with talking to his counterparts. And then there's been some TxDOT and FHWA meetings since. Mrs. Ramirez is also, our deputy city manager, has also stepped in, and we actually got bogged down a bit on some transit issues recently, and we're working through that to make sure that our dollars that we get for planning are maximized under the new MPO structure. That's something that we've done it in a certain way, and that may or may not be the best way to do it under the new structure. But the MTP overall, we've given it the proper review. I think the overpass was added, I don't know, last minute, but that was added recently. And in fact,
that's on the back end of the timeline.
Right now, the technical committee went with, I think, option A, but B is, there's no difference in monies. They're both shown as $15 million with 4% inflation. So $15 million in present day costs.
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to comment on this. We have 2 options before us, option A and option B. One Amphils, the other one is the LNG plant. From a TxDOT perspective, we have a known signalized intersection at Amphils. It would seem more appropriate that what we have today in place that the overpass to be listed, even though it's in the outer years, would be more appropriate there. As the LNG plants mature and things evolve, I think we'll have other opportunities in the future to add others. But from a TxDOT perspective, our recommendation would go with option A.
Option A. And of course, if we see that there's a lot of traffic on the LNGs and all that, then we can obviously modify that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, if I
Yes,
might
sir.
also add to it, option A, option B, they're so far out.
Right.
They'll be there. We would expect that both of them would be there long before 2040 or
Right.
41 or 45. LNGs, the primary one that the option B addresses is probably going to let a contract to start construction by next summer, if things continue to go the way they're going now. Now, obviously, first thing they're going to need to have some deceleration lanes and some side lanes and all this kind of stuff, but eventually, they're going to be needing a lot more activity there because, especially during construction, where they have 5,000 or 6,000 people appearing at work every morning, we've got a lot of things to deal with TxDOT and with the MPO. So option A is fine. We just, option B is fine.
Okay.
I'll be good, dead and gone by that time, so.
I'll tell Frank to freeze your body.
Yeah.
Wake you up when it's time. All right, any other comments? Looking for a motion then to adopt with, subject to any technical corrections, either option A or B?
Make a motion to adopt option A.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt option A. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Next item, item 6, presentation on the City of Brownsville's traffic plan.
Yeah, David Lincoln will substitute for Mr. Lastra.
Okay.
Good morning, David Lee with the City of Brownsville Engineering Department. I'm going to give a very brief overview of what we've been working on with some monies that became available in May from a budget amendment for traffic. The goal for the traffic signalization and improvement overall is to upgrade our infrastructure that's way past decaying, where we need to really do a modification to it to alleviate some of the stresses of a growth in the city, to maybe help out with some major traffic concerns around safe routes and around BISD schools. So our goal is we had to kind of look at this from kind of starting over. What will we need to do to make a modern infrastructure plan for a new city? So we kind of broke it down into 3 different segments. We needed first to work on our infrastructure, and we know that everything moving forward is going to be online some way, somehow. So we had an opportunity to start working with TxDOT and PUB to start improving our infrastructure to put fiber lines that be a closed network for the city to put on all of our traffic signals and any other infrastructure, critical infrastructure needs that we would need. This would vastly expand what we're able to do, and we won't have to send out our traffic department every single time one of the lights goes down and we don't know why. And we have to wait for a citizen complaint to say that, hey, the light's not working. This would help us really start getting that to where we're being proactive in our approach when we have issues with our signalizations, any type of timing issues, we can remotely tap into those. So we're starting in 3 phases. Boca Chica, and if it looks familiar, it's because it is a TxDOT project where we're doing the median work. We're going to put on a change order for that so we can take advantage of that. We have a contractor there through TxDOT and just add them to do the trenching work for us and put our fiber lines in that area. And this goes from frontage all the way down to 4 corners, as you well know. The second phase is where we're going to use the city's own power through Public Works to start using a trail that's already existing to put our fiber line. Basically, it's going to be the backbone of the east side of the city. So we're going from Boca Chica all the way up to Alton Glore, about 4.1 miles that we're going to be utilizing that trail and doing improvements as needed so we can get basically the backbone of the fiber network up. The last portion we're going to do is the extension from 48 to 511, and that will be utilizing some of PUB's help and doing some overline, but it's basically going to be extending out so that when we start expanding out for that the east loop, that we have some fiber out there onto those outward extents of the city. The next step is traffic reduction, because we know that as for the city, as we're growing with traffic volumes changing, we have to find a way to control that. And that's going to be through a remote system, which we have through ATMS. That was approved by the city, through a city budget, through a commission 2 months ago, as Mayor, you well know. And we're going to start implementing that this fall. But it relies a lot on that infrastructure. So we can have all the software in place, but if we can't see where those cameras are, then it doesn't help us much. So that's where we're kind of phasing it out, where the infrastructure is the most important thing first, and then the software follows in suit right behind. So we're going to have the fiber with the GPS antenna that's already installed and radio backup going in, all this fall coming up. And the last portion is, and I say last, but planning isn't last. It just takes a little bit longer to make a larger master plan. We took out the first 2 phases of the master plan because we felt like as a city we could take care of those portions on our own without having to go through the engineering firm to tell us that we need to do exactly what we needed to do. So that's why we felt we could be very proactive and start working on that approach. And then come and let the engineers focus on the more critical needs, the corridor timing plans, the larger master plan for the city and how we grow for the next 15 or 10 to 20 years. So that kind of give you a brief outline of what their schedule looks like. We're going to be coming back and presenting to the commission in the next couple of months with the first phase of that master plan to kind of present what their findings are and how we're going to be moving forward for it. So that's kind of in a brief, really short 4 slides. What the city's trying to do is moving proactive and trying to be traffic ready for the future. So if y'all have any questions about that, I'm willing to hear them.
I think it
know
looks
it's
great.
fun.
Everything seems to be on track, and I
Good.
know the city made some investments in the infrastructure and fiber, so I'm excited about that.
And this is a $1.3 million budget amendment that we were doing. So it's a substantial amount of money to get us moving and we're not waiting around. Any other questions? Perfect. I guess I had some more stuff. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comments on this? Okay. All right, that was just, that was not an action item. So item 7, presentation and discussion of TxDOT's project status report.
Good morning, everyone. Gabriel Villarreal with TxDOT San Benito area office. I'm going to be giving an update for one of the TxDOT MPO projects. That's the I-69 pedestrian bridge. So I guess the update from last month's production is the installation of the bent caps for the pedestrian bridge. You can see that L-shaped bent cap right there on the left-hand corner. That's the bent cap right there that's been installed. Also, the contractor continues to work on the retaining walls. This one's on the southbound lanes on the north side of the railroad tracks. And then last month's update was the installation of coping on the retaining walls, which is what you see on the left-hand corner here. And last month, I guess an update from that is the moment slab that you can see on the right-hand corner that's been installed. So that's pretty much an update for that project. We have another one that wasn't on the slides is a SH48 medium project. We did have a pre-construction meeting for that one this month, and construction is planned to start in October. So,
I would
any
like
questions?
to recommend everybody that if you have a chance, go and look around the work that they're doing. It's really impressive. The size of the beams, the size of the columns. We see the pictures and they're great, but being there and driving around, looking in from your car to the size of those beams and structures is impressive. It's something that is taking time. Sometimes we, looking at it from the outside, say, why so slow? Why haven't we finished? But you can't really imagine the amount of work that is there. So I recommend, I do it at least once a month, and it's really impressive.
Thank you. Anyone else?
On the Boca Chica median thing, I forgot, what's the time frame on that?
That one, I believe,
It's on October the 14th. That's when they're going to be starting.
Yeah, but how long is the
The
project
duration?
going to take?
How long is about almost a year? Approximately.
They're gonna start on the south or the east side and work their way up.
Edgar,
They're gonna start on the north, on the west side or the east side of Boca Chica?
At this point in time, I'm thinking we're gonna start from the expressway side, but I'd be more than welcome to talk to you after the meeting, that we'll discuss it.
Yeah, we'll look into that and we can definitely get with you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item 8, presentation, discussion of off-system projects as follows: City of Brownsville, Cameron County, CCRMA, and the Port.
Hello again, David Liquan from Engineering Department. So Greenbrier, we just want to give you all updates on where we're at with the 2 streets that we've been working on. Greenbrier, from my understanding, should be nearing, I'm sorry, Louis, completion. Sorry, what day? What day, or where we're looking at?
We're looking for 6 months, so probably it's gonna be ready, let's say, if everything goes well, about the weather and everything, starting by the end of the year.
Okay.
We started like a month ago. We're moving pretty fast.
So the contractor is on schedule. If anything, actually, he's a little bit ahead of schedule. So, but we do expect a little bit delays with rains that are coming in. So, but we look like we're going to be on track for that end of year target dates. And here's just an aerial of kind of what we're looking at for that Greenbrier improvement, shown in blue. Just some more of the construction where they're getting ready to start doing the work. So Roosevelt, as you know, I'm sorry.
What's the
Question?
cost of that project? You
Luis, you
don't
know,
recall?
There is gonna be around 400,000, but that includes PUB portion, because they're gonna add water lines.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes? Roosevelt, we are at that 90% completion of that project. Here where it's outlined in blue. It was a full reconstruction that we did do on that one. There was a lot of delays due to some utility line work that need to be corrected because it's a really old section of our streets. So when we start digging up any old sections, as you well know, unforeseen delays happen. So, but we are nearing the very end of the completion. They did finish the 3-inch asphalt layer, was put in as of last week. And now we're going to get ready to start doing punch list items to get out. We're at the 90% completion of this project.
Hopefully by this weekend it's gonna be open. We're waiting just for current concrete because we already poured it yesterday. So hopefully by Monday it's gonna be open.
And what was the total amount that we went for that one?
It's 650,000.
Yeah, 650,000 that was split between City of Brownsville. There was some CDBG grants that were included into that one, as well as PEB costs for utility improvements. Sorry, too far, guys. Any questions on Roosevelt? All right.
That's
thank
going
you.
to make a big difference in that area.
It really
It's
will.
an older part of town, and any project we do makes a big difference, but this is going to be exceptionally.
And that street is really heavily trafficked, actually, so I'm
Yes,
glad
it
it's
is.
going to be done. I was getting a lot of inquiries about that, but we started speeding it up here. I know that there was an issue also with acquiring some material
Right.
at one point.
Yes, there was. And that was just with some delays with material from the port that was not coming in for a certain amount of time. But that was rectified.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Cameron County?
Mayor and committee members, for the record, Pete Sepulveda. Don't have a PowerPoint presentation this morning, but just a quick update on several of the projects. Start with the county, Old Dallas Road. That project from Highway 100 in Los Fresnos to Sports Park Boulevard is fully funded at the MPO level. And then those funds will carry over into the regional MPO. Both the county and the RMA have set aside local funds. I'll be getting with city manager, sending him a draft interlocal on discussions we had to move forward with the engineering, utilizing local funds, and we can have that project under construction in less than a year. The RMA is currently working on the environmental document for that project. We've done traffic studies, we've done the cultural resources studies, and so the only real big item lacking is the schematic. to incorporate that into the environmental document, but we'll be working with the county and the city on that. Southport Connector project, that pretty much was turned over back to the port. I believe this Sunday, the port will start advertising for bids. And so, should have that project, if it comes, within the budgeted amount of funds, under construction in the next couple of months. East Loop project, we continue to develop the environmental document in-house at the RMA. We've got a consultant doing the schematics. We've got a meeting with Fish and Wildlife and TxDOT later on this week on a discussion on right-of-way acquisition and right-of-way land swap between Fish and Wildlife and us. So that project is moving forward. We're proceeding and selecting consultants for Morrison Road project, Whipple Road, and Indiana Road in the city of Brownsville. So last 30, 45 days, we've really had good meetings with TxDOT, and it's allowed us to proceed on a couple of issues that we had pending with TxDOT on those projects. So I think now that we've gotten green lights, y'all are going to see more progress on a monthly basis. So that pretty much concludes my report.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Sepulveda? Okay. That took care of the CCRMA as well, right, Pete? So, last Port of Brownsville?
It pretty well took care of the Port of Brownsville.
Okay. All right.
We're going to be advertising.
Any public comments? Any other comments at all? Okay. Next item would be new business or discussion items.
We've got some certificates. The MPO staff would like to thank the members of the technical committee and the policy committee, and I'd ask the staff to hand them out. And Alphonse, Antonio, can you go see if Alicia's available? Alicia, oh, she's here, good. She worked over 18 years with our MPO, and I think about 18 years ago with 9/11, the next day on September 12th, her baby Samantha showed up. And now Samantha's getting closer to be going to college pretty soon. So Alicia wanted to make some comments. Come on up, Alicia.
Good morning, Mayor,
Morning.
Policy Committee, members of the public, everyone. Thank you very much for allowing me this time. My name is Alicia Justilian, and I served with the MPO staff for about 19 years, total of 20 years with the city. And I just wanted to formally and personally thank you, Policy Committee and MPO staff, for all the years of service that you all provided to our city and our surrounding cities. And if we look around throughout our city, our communities, we can see a lot of improvements that have been made over the years. And it is all because of the hard work that you all have given, and MPO staff as well. So I have come to value and appreciate all the hard work done through the transportation system. And I look forward to seeing more of that happening through the new RGB MPO. So just wanted to thank you all, Mayor, all the members, TxDOT, MPO staff, Mr. Levy, Tony, Mr. Vallejo, and Caitlin, as well as all the input that we have received from the public, because all of that has made it possible for all the improvements that have been made throughout our city. So thank you very much. I wish you all the very best, and I am now with the city managers. So if I can help in any other way, I am available. Thank you.
Thank you. You're thanking us, but I think we should be the ones thanking you for all your time and service. So really, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the contributions of the staff. Caitlin's been here as a temp, and she's had some of the most difficult time with this MTP, and she's hung in there and under the pressure. She's done excellent work. Antonio, you've been with us a little bit over 3 years. I think this end of this month, is it 3 years with the MPO and 6 years with the city? Yeah, and so he's done an outstanding job on public involvement. The portal is very, very tedious. And I told him when he started, look, you're going to give me lessons on this, because you're going to work with the folks in Austin and learn all the ins and outs. And he's done that, and also on the spreadsheet with all that $500 million, put that together. He's done excellent work, especially on the public involvement. Alfonso, I could go on and on and on about Alfonso's help. You know, on the TransCAD, I would go to that training, and when we went over there, I remember we stopped for coffee. Remember when the guys, they had some salesmen in front of the service station, they're out doing their chicken dance. I guess that was their way they would warm up. So I think we saw them 2 or 3 days in a row. I'm not brave enough to do the software. TransCAD, you do like 58 steps, and if you make one goof, then all the work that you did goes nowhere. And Alfonso's been very brave with that. He's been excellent on the travel demand model. The other thing is, the guy's 17 times friendlier than I am. He's been excellent at creating liaison with the Mexican consulate, the port of entry, all the Homeland Security, U.S. Customs folks. He's been part of the Border Trade Advisory Committees with the different Secretary of States, and he's on a first-name basis with some of the highway officials, you know, Capufe and SAT and Mexico. So his knowledge has helped not just our area, but the whole South Texas region. So I thought I was going to talk about some of our high points. I won't do that. I'll talk about our future. The MPO staff, we are going over to La Plaza. There's going to be a new city department. It'll be multimodal transportation. I don't know if the word services is on there or whether it's transportation department. That's how new that is. But we will do planning in terms of bicycle and pedestrian, and then we will still have influence on highway planning because we will look at safety issues. We have a knowledge of the congestion management issues, so we will help engineering in terms of those issues. And then Alfonso will still work on the thoroughfare plan and in terms of the Plat Advisory Committee. So I have a knowledge of bicycle and pedestrian planning. I know Antonio's acquired that knowledge. We're going to help Norma Zamora. She will be the department head over there. So I will talk about that future, and I will also be the city's representative with Norma as the proxy for the Technical Advisory Committee at RGV MPO. So I'll be keeping track of some of those issues, and when you have questions, please contact me. I'll be happy to assist you. So I'm not going to talk about all those high points about moving the railroad, about the overpass at the frontage road, or becoming a walkable, bicycle-friendly. I didn't talk about that. I was talking about the future. So I really do thank everybody, and I'm also going to send out a memo to city departments because over the decades, they have helped us. They need to understand that their contributions have been critical to support MPO staff, and that, Mark Milam and the people from Rancho Viejo are not here. When we brought them in, it was 2 years under non-voting status. And then their input was so valuable, they were added. We went from 11 members to 13 members. So they deserve our thanks because their contributions has made the planning process better. So we are focused on the future. I thank each and every one of the policy members and also the technical members. So I think with that, the other big news is we have some pan dulce and some coffee. Once every 25 years we do that. So.
Well, thanks so much, Mark. Before we adjourn, I know Eddie had some questions about the future and some input going forward. When we discussed the PB meeting, did you just want to bring that up?
Yeah, I was just, I see the institutional knowledge that we have, and I was concerned that we didn't lose that, and I think Mark has addressed some of that.
Yeah, I'll give you a little nugget of some of the things. Even though the MPO evaporates, so to speak, Brownsville MPO after September 30th, no longer, we still have to do the annual performance expenditure report, account for all the money that we spent this fiscal year. We have to do an annual listing of projects. I don't know if they're going to, if TxDOT, there's a guy named Philip Tyndall always wants a report on TAP, and usually asks for it in December. But I know those other two reports, I will produce those reports. We will send them in to close business for the MPO. We can't really do that until early November. And then we will bill the COG for the new MPO. They're going to reimburse the city for my time making those reports. I'll email Philip and ask him, look, if you want your report on your spreadsheet that's ooey gooey, please ask for that in late October or November. I really don't want to deal with that in January or whatever, the way we usually, but he may have his cycle in any case. The TxDOT may get a freebie on that TAP report, but that's the type of stuff the tiny details that we have to keep track of, little things like that. And so, in that sense, our MPO accounting for what the money that we spent this fiscal year, that'll happen in November.
Okay.
Well, my main concern also was, I guess, all the different entities that are represented here, I guess we've historically, we've had input into how we move Brownsville forward and Rancho and, you know, the surrounding areas. And how, my question was, how is that going to work in the future with the new MPO? How are we going to get input from the port, from the chamber, from the school district, from, you know, I really kind of hate to see the picture just evaporate, because then how does the public input get in there?
Eddie, you make a very valid point. That was one of the things that was taken into consideration when the bylaws were put in place. And really, when it comes to the city of Brownsville, the mayor serves on the policy board. As far as the surrounding communities, Judge Trevino represents the county. So I want to recommend and encourage each and every one of you, if you have input, please work with those elected officials to ensure that your voice is heard. Mark mentioned he's going to be part of the technical advisory committee, so he's another option available to you, and of course TxDOT. At this point, I want to also recognize and thank current and past policy board members, technical advisory committee members, the MPO staff, and all the various entities that have served here for all the support. There were some challenges along the way, but it was mentioned by Alicia, there was a lot of really good progress too, and we've done a lot of things over the years, and it took us coming together to make that happen. So we move on to the next chapter when it comes to MPO, and now the new RGV MPO. But I too have great expectations for our region to continue to flourish in this great communities that we live in.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Related to the meetings that you're going to have for the regional MPO. Can we pop in and eventually participate? We can drive, perhaps for a particular meeting, or?
Yeah, so the policy board is 14 members, and it sits kind of like this. And then in that same room, there's plenty of chairs for those that want to continue to be involved, and I encourage you to attend.
Can you send us an agenda when the meetings are and where are they, so that we can eventually, if we're curious enough, we can just go?
It is my understanding it's the last Wednesday of the month, right after the COG meeting, which is from 12 to 1, and then at that point, the RGV MPO meeting.
If you're interested in getting notice of the meetings, send me an email, and then I will forward it over to Gloria.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
She can add you to the email blast. I don't think, they've been very receptive and willing. I don't think they'll have any objection to adding some more folks that are interested.
Definitely.
Good.
And then if there's an occasion where I'm not available, Christina is the public information officer at the city, and she'll be getting notices. So if there's ever an occasion where you can't reach me or Norma Zamora, talk to Christina.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor? Aye. All right, then adjourn. Thank you.